So the side of the story that came from the Jack Perry side was that after the match, or after, whatever happened, the glass spot where he said Crimea River, the story is that Punk, with several people, came up to Jack Perry and said, do we have a problem? And Jack Perry said, we don't have a problem. And Punk said something to the effect of, I could F you up, right? And CM Punk then either hit or pie-faced Jack Perry, attempted to put him in a guillotine, and either Jack prevented the guillotine or easily got out of the guillotine, and then Punk threw some swings, and then it was broken up, and Samoa Joe told him to knock it off. That is the side of the story that is the non-Punk side.
Back from his match, I was the next match. I'm sitting there. I got people with me. I'm not going to say who they are, because I got a lot of friends who work there, and I wish them all well, and I don't want them to be punished because they're friends with me, And I walk up to him and I'm just like, Jack, why do you insist on doing this dumb internet shit like on TV, And he's just like, well, if you got a problem about it, do something about it. And I was just like, man, come on, man. I'll fucking kill you. Like, what are we doing? And it just, it's like Chael says, sometimes you just can't let you get close. I thought I was doing a responsible thing. I didn't punch anybody. I just choked somebody a little bit. Samoa Joe was there, told me to stop, and then I quit. I turned to Tony and I said, this place is a fucking joke, man. You're a clown. I quit.
So the footage is out. The Jack Perry CM Punk backstage altercation. It is an interesting video. I think it says about 90% accuracy to what CM Punk said. We can't say 100% because we don't know what words were used, but we can look at the body language. I think my analysis of the video, before I get to people talking about whether it should even be released or not, let's do a little analysis of the video. What we see is Jack Perry come to the back and Punk approached him. They have a short conversation. From the body language, it seems that Jack Perry is uninterested in this conversation. He doesn't really care about what Punk has to say. He responds to Punk, but of course we can't hear what he's saying. But whatever it is, Punk doesn't like it, and then it starts escalating. Punk shoves him. Jack Perry comes off his back foot. All of a sudden, Punk grabbed him by the hair, put him in a guillotine choke. It bumped into some monitors. Samoa Joe, Chris Hero, some others grabbed them, separated them. Punk then yelled at Tony Khan and was pulled away. Now, from what we have heard was that one of the big things that we've heard was that CM Punk lunged at Tony Khan. So let's compare this to some of the conversation that was going on at the time. September 1st, 2023, Wrestling Observer newsletter is aggregated by a lot of news sites. One of them is Inside the Ropes, where I'm going to read this transcription from. So this is what Alvarez and Meltzer heard in September about this incident. Perry said he was just looking to get heat as a heel. Punk shoved him hard. Perry got in his face, and in that version, Punk sucker punched him and went for a choke. People immediately broke it up, and Khan was yelling at Punk to let him go. That person said that once they were separated, Punk lunged in Khan's direction, but a number of people got in his way while Punk was yelling, "I quit." Now, this is from September 2023. This is actually pretty accurate to what we saw. We don't know what the conversation between Punk and Perry was. We don't know. We can't hear their side of the story. But we did see that Punk shoved Perry. We didn't see any sucker punch. There was no punch. But he did shove Jack Perry, and then before Jack Perry got a chance to respond, he got put in a guillotine choke, which was immediately separated. It says people immediately broke it up. That's a fact. And Khan was yelling at Punk to let him go. Now, we couldn't hear that. Tony Khan is not on screen. So we don't know what Tony Khan is saying. It says once they were separated, Punk lunged in Khan's direction, but a number of people got in his way while Punk was yelling, "I quit." This is seemingly accurate. Now, the whole lunging thing was the impetus for the Tony Khan Fear for His Life campaign that they've been going on. Now, Punk is mad, and he's mad in, a way that is pretty normal for people who are, kind of pissed off. And he's yelling, and he's pointing. And yelling and pointing can be considered a lunge if that's the way you chose to interpret that body motion. That if he's looking off screen and he's like, screw you, screw this company, I quit. And somebody's got him, by the waist or whatever. So he's not going to jump over there and attack Tony, which is what everybody thinks when you use the word lunge. They thinking he's coming at him open hand, like to grab him by the throat or something. Like he's going to hit him with something or trying to punch him or something. But none of that occurred. None of that occurred. What did occur was Punk was pissed at Tony Khan, and he yelled at Tony Khan, and then, some monitors got moved around, but the monitors didn't even fall. What made me more interested is that when you look at the entirety of the video, look at the people around them. Did the people around them look concerned? Does anybody in that, Samoa Joe's just pacing back and forth. There's all kind of production people just standing around doing nothing. They're just standing there doing nothing. And these guys are having a conversation right here, and apparently the conversation's heating up, and still nobody even looks until Punk shoves Jack Perry. Then everybody's like, oh, whoa, what's going on now? So clearly what's going on is Punk didn't go from 0 to 100 raging lunatic psycho and try to kill Jack Perry. That didn't happen. He got pissed off at something the kid said, and then he shoved him. And then before the kid had an opportunity to respond, Punk put him in a front face lock. Look, I'm not on Punk's side in this situation. I do believe that, he likely would not have tried this with somebody who is a little bit more of a veteran in the business. I do believe there is some pussy there, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he was, but the only thing is that he didn't lie about it. He admitted to being the guy who approached Jack Perry. He admitted to being the guy who initiated contact, but he never threw any punch, and he never did anything that would put Tony Khan in fear for his life. Now, even what my version of the events, without even seeing it, and I'm not going to go way back in my archives to look at it, I imagined it being two guys got into an argument in an enclosed space where there's monitors and things there, and maybe some stuff got knocked onto Tony Khan, and that was, fearful, that, there might be something that falls on him or something like that. And that was pretty close. The monitors are it's like a long table with a bunch of TVs on it. Even if one of those TVs fell over, it wasn't going to put Tony Khan's life in danger. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out, how was Tony Khan's life in danger? What about this put Tony Khan's life in? It doesn't make sense. That part doesn't add up. That Tony Khan's life being in danger, that don't add up. When he goes on television, and he went on interviews and said it's the scariest thing he's ever been a part of. He goes on, this is Tony Khan. He went on Dan Le Batard's show, which was about 6 months ago, and talked about, he didn't want to talk about the incident, but he says, without a doubt, 100%, I was scared as hell for a moment there. What in that video would have scared a normal person? Somebody lunging at you? If you even want to call it a lunge, he's just yelling and being loud. He didn't grab him, unless he did grab him, and I didn't see that. I didn't see him get touched, So it's a really weird thing that this is the reason why he fired the guy, because the guy yelled at him, and apparently before, they didn't show any of the footage of Punk maybe approaching Tony Khan, telling him to take care of this. They didn't show any of that. Okay, so it's a really weird scenario, man. I don't get it. I don't get why this had to be publicized. This was stupid. It made everybody look bad. On Jack Perry's side, he looks bad not only because he can't fight, but he looks like, let's stop pretending. This is for the people who are on the side of the elite. Let's stop pretending that you don't know that passive aggressive people can agitate and trigger and get people to retaliate without touching them. There are some people who are masters of that stuff, that they know as long as I don't touch you first, I won't get in trouble. You know, so what they'll do is they'll say little things here and there. They'll nitpick. And then when you retaliate, sometimes you retaliate physically. All of a sudden, wait, what is this? Why are you acting like that? You're crazy. It's like, come on, man. We all know that there's fighting words out there. There's, disrespectful tones of voice. And some people don't know how to handle that stuff, or they deal with it, in a different way. So if you're on the Jack Perry side, get the fuck out of here with that. You know damn well there's ways of instigating and riling people up to get them to fight you. Stop it. We're not playing that game. If you're on the CM Punk side, come on. Jack Perry's a kid. He's like 27 or something. All right. He's really small. He obviously was trying to be disrespectful. Why give him the response that he was looking for? Why? Why play into his hands? What was the point of that? And furthermore, Punk didn't even cinch in the guillotine choke. I was expecting the guillotine choke to be like what Hogan grabbed Richard Belzer that time and just snuffed him, put him to sleep. That's what I expected. What I got was CM Punk basically held him in place. And they bumped some monitors. That was pretty much it. I'm like, come on. Punk doesn't even look like a tough guy in this situation. He looks like a pussy too. And then the crowd is chanting CM Punk after the video plays. The crowd is on the side of Punk. It's pathetic. This whole thing is absolutely pathetic. So now that we've established with our own eyes that CM Punk at most raised his voice and pointed a finger at Tony Khan at the very most, and that Jack Perry was not hurt, he was not harmed, he was embarrassed a little bit because he got shoved and then got, yanked, but that was it. He didn't get put to sleep. He didn't get strangled. He didn't walk around with a black eye or nothing like that. Nothing really happened. Nothing really happened. But now that that's been established, the question comes out, what does AEW even get for this? Now, there's been some people who have made the suggestion that what AEW wanted was attention. And this is what, a lot of the wrestling journalists from guys like Jonathan Snowden is like, well, this is what they wanted, They wanted all the attention on their show. And Tony Khan was talking about, the timing of the release. It was, pivotal with AEW Dynasty and how they were going to rope that into the storyline, which is what they tried to do, but nobody cared. Nobody cared about the storyline. All they cared about was the footage. And then they started analyzing the footage and didn't hear anything that Mustache Man or the Young Bucks were talking about. Nobody paid them any attention. So did you sell any tickets for Dynasty in this way? No. I mean, even Justin LaBar says, fans live in the arena were chanting for CM Punk while watching the security footage. Like them, I can't wait to buy the AEW pay-per-view to see Jack Perry versus CM Punk. Oh, wait. Yeah, clearly that match is not about to happen. That match is not about to occur. Brad Gilmore, who does a podcast with Booker T, says, in the history of bad ideas, airing the AEW All-In footage has to be up there next to the Dog Kennel from Hell match. I don't understand the point of airing the footage. I don't get what purpose it served. And all I can see that it did was vindicate what Punk said on Helwani's show, Could be wrong here. Feel free to correct me if I am. But this looks like a petty and immature way to pop a rating for one evening. That's pretty much what it is, sir. They got everybody talking about it. That's what they wanted. They got a lot of attention. Got a lot of folks talking. But what are they going to gain anything materially from this situation? I just don't see that happening. I think John Draper, who occasionally does Wrestling Soup, he had a really good response to this too. He says, I have to say, a part of me really believed that the footage would kind of end some of this insane behavior. But to see so many people double down and act like they saw a completely different video is alarming. It's a fucking cult. Just stop pretending it's not. You're in a cult. Yeah, this is what the Dilbert guy, his name is escaping me right now, what he calls 2 movies, 1 screen, right? You put out, with no audio, a video. It's 1 minute long. Everybody is looking at the same video. But what some people are getting out of this video is completely different than what other people are getting out of this video. And a lot of that is colored by their own biases, by them being in somebody's camp. If you're pro CM Punk, maybe you saw Jack Perry being dismissive and disrespectful. Maybe, the verbiage is the verbiage that you believe CM Punk said. If you're on the side of the elite, you're looking at Punk like he's a bully. Why is he approaching this guy? He's in his personal space. That part at least is true. He put his hands on Perry first. He grabbed Jack first. He yelled at Tony. He lunged at Tony. But in reality, if you actually look at this stuff in somewhat fair, it looked like a basic altercation you would see between strangers getting into an argument. For Dave Meltzer, he just said a very simple sentence. I don't think showing it was a good idea. You think? It wasn't a good idea. I don't know what they look to accomplish. I'm just not sure what they look to accomplish. Brian Last, of course, who does podcasts with Jim Cornette, says, they played the video with no sound. Following that, the fans in the building kept the silent trend going. Oh. They thought they would embarrass Punk by showing that he smacked Jack Perry in the mouth. What a misfire. He didn't smack him. He shoved him. That's what he did. It's silly. It's really silly. That's dumb. Dave Shearer of PW Insider didn't even respond on the the playing of the video yet. He just preemptively said, no matter what Tony Khan airs tonight, he looks like a moron. If Punk did what he said and choked Perry, moron. If it shows nothing new, moron. If Punk slapped 20 people, he looks like a super big moron for being so stupid and not addressing the elite Punk situation to begin with. Yes. It says what it is what it is. The video speaks for itself. There was no slapping, there was no punching, there was nothing of the sort. One guy got shoved, and then the same guy got put in a guillotine choke that wasn't even tight. It's ridiculous. Ryan Satin says, CM Punk is a liar. I, for one, am shocked. I really want to know what he lied about. He then doubles down and says, if someone shoved me like that before attempting to choke me out, I would consider it hitting me. These guys are a new breed of wimp. It's like they are wimps made in a lab. Bro, you never been in an argument with somebody before? You never shoved back and forth with people before? What Punk did to Jack Perry wasn't even the worst that he could have done. Instead of snatching him and putting him in a guillotine choke, he could have threw punches. But we know Punk can't throw a punch. So it wouldn't have made a goddamn deal anyway. It wouldn't have hurt him. This is ridiculous, bro. Punk can't fight. And these people can't even think their way out of a wet paper bag. They can't imagine 2 people getting into any kind of altercation without, running to tell the teacher. It's like, who are these people? Where do they come from? Jonathan Snowden, who is a wrestling journalist, he apparently is all in on the Kool-Aid. He says, quote, "A lot of tough guys who work in insurance sales and don't have their real picture as their avatar are online right now, pretending it's totally normal for people to attack folks at their job." No, it's not normal. And nobody said it was normal. People are saying that this is a nothing burger. People get into arguments all the time. And, yeah, people get into arguments. You get into arguments in Walmart. You get into arguments in parking lots. I mean, these things happen. Just this time it happened to be at the job. It's not that big a deal. He continues. Punk looked like a real badass, says a wrestling fan with a blue check, apparently impressed that a grown man took a sucker punch at someone and managed to do absolutely no real damage before a 60-year-old backstage worker with a bad hip easily corralled him and held him back. Well, that should tell you how badly he really wanted to attack these people, is that he was so easily controlled. For starters, we know CM Punk ain't about that life anyway. He ain't no fighter. That nigga can't fight. Philip can't fight. We already know that. What is wrong with you? We saw that in person in UFC. He can't fight. But that doesn't mean that Jack Perry was like all of a sudden going to turn into Randy Couture and kick his ass or anything like that. It's just two people can't fight. Fighting or arguing, debating or whatever. It's not that big a deal. Punk doesn't, it's not a badass. He's just an asshole who was not going to put up with Jack Perry being disrespectful. You know, it is what it is. And he just continued. He went on and on. And he starts doing the crazy whataboutisms to defend Tony Khan. Because Tony Khan must be defended. Really loving the idea that it's bad for AEW's business to talk about backstage issues when Vince McMahon literally created the biggest wrestling heel of all time by pouring fire on dirt sheet reports and talking junk about someone from the other company. He's talking about the Brett screwed Brett scenario. Unless the Young Bucks dig really deep, I'm talking impossibly deep into the repertoire to find talent and charisma and skill, they are not in any way going to turn into the Vince McMahon character at any juncture in the future. So I would not compare those two things. I just wouldn't. We get it. AEW was doing this for attention. Did it help them? Yes. People are talking about it, but now it's CM Punk trending, not AEW. When the Young Bucks come out there, it's CM Punk being chanted, not the Young Bucks. They didn't set the stage for Jack Perry's heroic return or anything like that. The only thing they did was the Young Bucks used it as part of a storyline to talk about how Jack Perry, didn't do anything wrong, and that, CM Punk was trying to make this show all about himself. And then, he's friends with FTR, and, they're the ones who put him up to it because they want to try to mix kayfabe and reality, but now not doing it in a way that is in any way believable. It literally didn't help them at all. AEW is not trending. We're talking about something that happened at AEW, sure, but AEW itself is not trending. It's CM Punk that's trending. CM Punk is going to benefit from this far more than AEW will. Because now everybody's going to look at this thing and say, Punk didn't do anything to make anybody fear for their lives. Even if he grabbed Jack Perry, it wasn't like he was intentionally trying to kill him. So we're looking at this thing and saying, what did he do really that was that bad besides initiate contact against a guy who clearly had an issue with him? This is all garbage. I'm glad we don't have to talk about this no more. Philip, he can go fuck himself. Jack Perry can go fuck himself with sushi. And Tony Khan is a pussy. All right, end of story. Good night.